Welcome back to another episode of With a Grain of Salt. I am your host, Isaiah Salter, and I appreciate each and every one of you for tuning in for yet another week. I'm really excited about this episode because I put out a poll on my Instagram or on the WAGOS Instagram about some topics that you guys wanted to hear on the podcast, and this was something that came up a lot, and it was also something that I genuinely wanted to talk about because it's something I'm dealing with currently. So I feel like everything was just aligned for us to get into this topic, which is navigating tough seasons. And tough seasons can be, maybe you're going through a season where you lack clarity, where you feel a little bit lost, where maybe you're dealing with a setback or whatever it may be. I think it's really important to reframe and understand, what's happening during those times and how we can all navigate it individually and collectively. So the first thing we're going to get into as far as navigating tough seasons is you have to understand that tough seasons, setbacks, seasons where you lack clarity, where maybe you're just frustrated internally, you're not as aligned, you're not as clear mentally and emotionally as you once were, those are part of the journey. They're not the opposite of the journey. They're not the opposite of your growth. They're a part of it, right? So the first thing you need to do is embrace the tough season as part of the journey. Embrace the tough season as part of the journey. Growth happens in cycles, and no one is exempt from periods of difficulty. For me currently, I feel like just these past probably 4 or 5 weeks, I feel like I've moved into a season of just lacking clarity in certain areas and not being as aligned internally as I once was prior to stepping into this season. But I understand that this is natural, and this is a part of me getting to where I want to be in life. Another thing that I had to really remind myself of was that the same way nature moves in seasons, the universe moves in seasons, our planet moves in seasons, so do we, right? And for me, I'm in New York. I'm in upstate New York. We just moved into the winter, and the winter's really hitting right now. Snowing, really, really cold, no sunlight, you know what I mean? Like, the trees are dead, all these things. And I really just had to reflect on that and think about, well, that's kind of what I'm kind of going through internally, and that's what we go through as individuals. You're going to go through those seasons where things aren't feeling as, uplifted and expansive. They feel really contracted. They feel really harsh. You're lacking that sunlight. You're lacking the energy and things of that nature. But understand it's a part of the journey. The only way that we're going to get to spring, where the flowers are blooming, weather is beautiful, it feels great outside, is we have to embrace where we are. We have to embrace the winter. We have to embrace the snow, right? We have to embrace the cold. And it's the same in our lives. We have to be willing to embrace these seasons that are tougher than others in order to step into the seasons of abundance, of joy, of uplifting opportunities, things of that nature, right? It says every season has a purpose. Winter, where nature appears dormant, is when roots grow deeper. Your current storm could be strengthening your foundation. Your current storm, this current season, could be strengthening something within you that maybe you're not aware of right now, but if you just stick it out, you'll be able to see later down the line. But most people never get to see it come to fruition because we resist the season. We try to fight the season. We feel like something's wrong because we have to go through this tough season or because we feel these things, right? But no, it's not. No, it's not. And that's why your perspective through tough seasons is so important. When you have the perspective that this is happening for me, this is a part of the journey, it's going to help you tremendously to navigate those times where you lack clarity, or maybe you're frustrated internally, or maybe certain relationships or certain things externally aren't as aligned as they once were. Maybe you're feeling lost as an individual. It's going to help you tremendously to navigate those times when you understand it's a part of the journey and it's just a season. It is just a season. No season lasts forever. Every season is temporary, and every season is serving a greater purpose. So this season that you're in right now of feeling, lost or lacking clarity or struggling in certain areas, or it's just incredibly tough to get up every single day. Understand it's serving a purpose. It's building something in your foundation, in your character that maybe you can't see right now, but you will be grateful for later down the line. So just stick it out. Stick it out. It says life is not linear. It's cyclical. Accepting this allows us to flow with the process instead of resisting it, like we just said. Understand that life is cyclical. You are going to move in cycles as an individual, right? So don't get so emotionally attached to the seasons where everything feels good that you think that that's how your whole life should be forever. Because the moment it isn't that, you're going to feel like everything's hitting the fan. Something's wrong. You're doing something wrong. You're going to internalize that and identify with that, right? And then now you're going to start placing your value based off of how you feel in the season that you're in with. That's not true. Just because you don't feel good doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. Just because things are difficult does not mean you're going the wrong direction. No, it's a part of moving in the right direction, and you have to be willing to embrace those times, understanding they're serving a greater purpose. You have to remind yourself of this. Understand it is serving a greater purpose. This is part of the journey, and it will not last forever. And it will not last forever. It says feeling lost does not mean you are off track. It often means you're in a transition. That's beautiful. And that's kind of what I feel like I'm in right now is, I'm really, this next year, there's a lot of things that have been heavy on my heart to do, which will require me to, make certain transitions and shift certain areas in my life. And I think what comes before those transitions and what comes before those shifts is these periods where maybe you do lack clarity or you do feel a little bit lost, but you have to understand that's usually a sign that you're on the brink of transformation. You're on the brink of transition. You're on the brink of an external or internal shift. So embrace the feeling lost. Embrace the lack in clarity, understanding that what's on the other side of this is something beautiful. I just have to be willing to embrace where I am, right? And something that really helps me is not trying to get too ahead of myself. A lot of times what I used to do when I would lack clarity or I would feel lost is I would try to figure everything out right then. Right now, I have to figure it all out because I need to gain some sense of clarity rather than understanding that, listen, I feel lost. This is just the season I'm in. I need to take all of my energy, not on focusing on the future or trying to figure everything out, but rather focusing on what I can do in this moment to stay aligned, to make sure that I'm giving myself what I need, right? And to keep moving in the right direction and not getting too ahead of myself. And doing that has really helped me to find peace within those seasons where I do feel a little bit lost internally or even externally, right? And so something that I really, really would advise is just to really shift your gaze to the present. Focus on just being where you are and not trying to figure anything out. Just focus on taking it one step at a time and making sure that you're being intentional with those steps. What are the intentional steps that I need to take for this day? That is it, right? I was talking to my boy Adrian yesterday, and I was like, when you're going through these tough seasons, and especially like a winter season, right? When you're going through those seasons, it's cold, it's dark, the sun isn't out, it's tough to get up every day. You're lacking clarity. It's a struggle. That's where you got to double down on the things that keep you grounded. And I said that. I was like, I got to double down even more on the things that really keep me grounded and keep me aligned on my path. I got to really, really hone in on making sure that I'm eating the right stuff. I'm showing up at the gym. I'm making sure I'm really carving out time for stillness, my meditation, my journaling, making sure I'm reading when I have time, or not even when I have time, carving out time to read, right? Like doubling down on the things that keep you grounded, because usually what can happen for a lot of us, and I'm speaking from me included from the past, is when you start going through a tough season, it starts to take a toll on all facets of your life. And now the areas or the things that used to keep you grounded, they start to willow away because the season has become so overwhelming and we've been consumed by these feelings and these emotions and just what's going on in our life. This lack of clarity, it's very, very hard to navigate. But one of the worst things you can do during that time is to allow the circumstance to take away the things that really keep you grounded. And that's why awareness is so important, right? I have the awareness to catch myself when I'm in this type of season. Okay, I'm feeling a little lost. Life is getting a little tough externally. The winter is really hitting. I really feel it on my energy emotionally and mentally. This is where I need to double down on the things that keep me grounded. Double down on it, right? So yeah, double down on the things that really keep you grounded during that time. And to bring it back before I move on to the next point, Another thing is I've realized a lot of times in these seasons that are incredibly tough, they're really difficult to navigate. You're not feeling as clear. You're feeling a little lost. One of the best things you can do is stop trying to understand it and just embrace it. Like I was saying earlier, we don't need to try to figure out everything right now. You don't even need to try to understand why all this is happening. You just need to embrace it. Because a lot of times our desire or neediness to understand or figure out actually compounds the issue. It makes it worse for us rather than just bringing our attention to where we are, where is our feet, and embracing where we are, embracing where your feet are, and just taking it one moment at a time, right? Taking it one moment at a time. It says reframe discomfort as a sign that you're expanding into a new version of yourself, right? This is why Nipsey Hussle is not only one of my favorite rappers, just one of my favorite people to really look up to. And RIP, man, miss him every day. But like, he said something that was so profound, and it really like stays with me till this day. I remember when I first heard it, and it helped me tremendously where I was at in my journey. And he said, whenever I'm going through difficulty or adversity or things start to get incredibly uncomfortable, I remind myself that this is what it's supposed to feel like. Like when you're trying to really pursue the best version of yourself, you're trying to attain a certain goal or vision that you have in your mind or in your heart. You're really trying to live authentically in a line. You're trying to grow. You're trying to evolve. When difficulty and discomfort come, you got to remind yourself, no, this is what it's supposed to feel like. It is not an easy process. It's not supposed to be comfortable and happy-go-lucky all the time and rainbow and sunshines. No, you're going to have to go through those really, really tough seasons. You're going to have to go through those times where, your emotions are feeling incredibly heavy. Your mind isn't as clear and things just are incredibly difficult to navigate. You're going to have to go through those things. But remind yourself that this is what it's supposed to feel like, and it won't feel like this forever. That's the beautiful thing. Everything moves in seasons. You are going to go through tough seasons, but they don't last forever, right? They don't last forever. So, that's something that has been playing in my mind constantly, especially these last few weeks, is this is how it's supposed to feel, bro. This is exactly how it's supposed to feel when you're really trying to evolve and grow. And every time you really feel that discomfort and you feel like life is getting incredibly challenging and, you're feeling just frustrated and it's like, what's going on? It feels heavy. Understand that's usually a sign that you're shedding certain parts of yourself and stepping into a new version of yourself. And that is a beautiful thing because that is what we all want. That's why you're watching this podcast. That's why we create this community here at WAGOS, because we want to continue to grow and evolve and step into our aligned, most authentic version of ourselves. And in order to do that, it's going to require you to continue to level up, shed the old, and step into the new. And that shedding process is incredibly uncomfortable. It's incredibly difficult to navigate. But that it's a vital part of you stepping into what is for you. So when it comes, immediately reframe it as, okay, this is just what comes before I step into a better, more aligned version of myself. And that is a beautiful thing. That in itself can help you to navigate those times so much more peacefully. So much more peacefully. But so many people, they get attached to the things around them or the places that they're at, right? And so when those things start to shed and you have to step into a new version of yourself, because we're attached to these things, we don't allow that shedding process to happen. Or we view it as such a negative thing, like we're losing something, like this is the worst thing ever. And we try our hardest to fight the shedding process. And all you're doing is prolonging the pain. You're making it worse. And that's when you turn struggle into suffering. Struggle is inevitable. Suffering is contingent and based off of your perspective and perception of what you go through, right? Of what you go through. It says use visualization techniques. Picture yourself as a tree deeply rooted in the ground, weathering the storm and staying grounded. That's beautiful. That is a fact. That's something that I'm constantly playing in my mind. I was talking to Adrian about this too. He brought up an amazing analogy about how if you were on a ship in the middle of the ocean and a storm came, right? The best thing you can do, right? Let's say you're on a huge ship. The best thing you can do is anchor down. Put that anchor down and really make that ship secure and just ride out the storm. But what most people do is they try to start steering the boat and doing all these things. And if you're trying to ride a storm, like literally, like, swim, whatever it is, I'm using the wrong terminology, but you know what I'm saying? Like, the best thing you could do for that ship if you're in the middle of the ocean is anchor down and allow that storm to pass. Not try to fight the storm or run away from the storm or, outdrive the storm. You can't do that. You have to anchor down. And what most people do is when the struggle or the tough season or the adversity comes, they do every and anything to try to get away from it. Anchor down and embrace it. Anchor down and embrace it. And I promise you, the storm will eventually pass. But don't prolong the storm by trying to resist the storm. Put your anchors down, put your feet down, right? Like a tree that has deep roots, and embrace the storm. And eventually it will pass. And you will come out a stronger version of yourself, a more resilient version of yourself, a more developed version of yourself. And that is a beautiful thing. That is a beautiful thing. Ryan Holiday, one of the greatest stoicism teachers of our time, says the pause between seasons is where rest, reflection, and recalibration happen. That's beautiful. Rest, reflection, and recalibration. In order to step from one season into the next, there's usually a transition period, like we were saying. And that transition period either is going to require you to really rest, to really take time for reflection, or to do some recalibration internally and externally in order to step into that new season. So understand that when you're transitioning into a new season, you're transitioning from one to the next, and you're going through that middle period where things feel incredibly difficult, you might feel lost or lack clarity. Understand that is what's required in order to step into the new season, and bring awareness and figure out, do I need rest during this time? Do I need to go into deep reflection during this time? Or do I need to focus on recalibrating certain parts of my life during this time? And that's why awareness is so important, because every season is going to require something different from you, right? Every season is going to require something different from you. And that's a beautiful thing in itself, because that means no matter what season I'm in, there's something for me to find. There's an opportunity for me to really hone in on, right? There's some magic in here that I get to watch unfold, right? Because no season is the same, right? Life does move in cycles, but no season is the same, right? You might have went through seasons of adversity and struggle in the past, but every time you go through them, you're a different version of yourself. You have a new and aligned and refined perspective. So you're able to get something new from that season. And that is a beautiful thing. That is a beautiful thing. So, like we said, the first thing, embrace the tough season as part of the journey and understand life moves in cycles. Life moves in seasons. And so do we. The next one says, shift the perspective from setback to set up. Setback to set up. Whenever we go through really, really tough seasons, we're so quick to view it as such a negative thing, like we're being set back, like we're losing growth. But no, understand that what may feel like a setback in the moment is usually a setup for something greater. And that is a beautiful thing. What usually feels like a setback in the moment is usually a setup for something greater to come. Challenges are often the first steps to breakthroughs, right? We want to continue to evolve and grow, like we said. So in order to do that, you're going to have to continuously be challenged in order to get you to evolve and move into the person that you're meant to become, right? So understand that when those challenges come, when the setback comes, when the adversity comes, when the hardship comes, when the tough season comes, it's usually a setup for a breakthrough. It's usually a setup for you to step into something new, more aligned. It's usually a setup for elevation. Usually a setup for elevation. A setback is a hidden opportunity for learning or redirection. The story isn't over. This chapter is simply setting up the next one. That's a beautiful thing. The story is not over. We just have to set up for the next chapter. In that setup phase, some things have to happen. You're going to have to be pressured, pushed a little bit, maybe thrown around, because we're setting you up for the next chapter. And that's not an easy process, but we don't want ease. And I'm always going to repeat this. We do not want ease. We want growth. We want evolution, right? We want healing. We want to be better. So understand what comes with that. Challenge, adversity, discomfort, setbacks, maybe sometimes heartbreak, failure. but we embrace it all with the right perspective, with the right attitude, and with a grain of salt, because we understand that everything that is happening to us is also happening for us. Come on. Everything that is happening to us is also happening for us. Look for the seed of growth in your struggle. Ask yourself, what is this teaching me about resilience, patience, or faith? Facts. That's one of the best framings you can do when you're going through a tough season. What is this teaching me? What can I learn from this season? How can I grow in this season, right? Because right there, you're already shifting your mindset to focus. You're shifting your energy to focus on finding the opportunity rather than focusing on the lack. Rather than saying, why is this happening? Oh my gosh, this is the worst thing ever. This is so tough. I don't know if I can. No. We're not going to focus on that stuff. We're going to say, what can I learn? Where is the opportunity in this season? How can I grow in this season, right? And really take time for self-reflection, because that's where you will learn what you need to focus on during that season, right? I think during this season, right, for me, I realized in these past, especially specifically past week, I really need to focus on my discipline and devotion, right? That's something that's really heavy on my heart, something that I really feel, like the universe is pulling me towards during this time, is really, really lock in on your discipline and devotion and just focus on the everyday small steps that are leading or that lead to the places that you want to be, but just focus on being disciplined and devoted every single day. Are you going to be perfect? No. But really, really focus on that during this time, right? Other seasons, it may be I really need to focus on faith. I need to focus on really trusting in the process, because it is incredibly difficult to navigate those seasons where you feel lost, you lack clarity, you're dealing with a challenge or a setback, and you don't understand why this is happening. Sometimes those are the greatest times to really work and cultivate faith and trust, right? Or do I need to focus on patience, right? There's been seasons where they've been incredibly difficult, incredibly tough, and I've really, really realized that I need to take this time to really focus on being patient and really moving into that posture, right? So really, really figure out, what is this season requiring of you? What do you need to give your energy to during this time, right? And when you're asking these type of questions and moving about it this way, you're already taking yourself out of the victim seat and putting yourself into the victor seat, right? You're taking yourself out of the closed-minded, pessimistic mindset and focusing on the optimism and the opportunity mindset and the growth mindset. That's a beautiful thing in itself. That's why these questions and this inner dialogue and these reframing of what we go through is so important, because it can literally shift the whole experience as a whole, One thing that's really beneficial is when you're going through tough seasons, really reflect on past tough seasons and how they were blessings in disguise, on how you grew the most during those times, right? And understand that this is another opportunity for that to happen again. This is another opportunity for that to happen again. And I just need to embrace it, right? But oftentimes, you got to reflect on past setbacks, past times of adversity, past times of feeling lost and tough seasons, and understand that you made it through those. And usually when people tell you about their stories and their experiences and, how they grew and how they developed the most internally and externally, it was when they went through really, really tough seasons. So understand, when you're going through a tough season, it's part of the process. And reflect on how you've been through it before. You've made it out. But you not only made it out, you made it out a better version of yourself, a more aligned version of yourself. You came out with more wisdom, more depth, and that is a beautiful thing. It says, adopt the mindset. I'm not stuck, I'm being shaped. You are not stuck, you are being shaped. Right? So often we go through seasons and we feel stuck. We feel like we're not moving. We feel like we're not growing. No. Remember, every season is serving a greater purpose. And those seasons where you may feel stuck, understand, no, you're just being shaped. You're being shaped in order to step into the new season that is for you. But in order to get there, you have to be shaped in the right way. So what may feel like being stuck in the moment is really you just being shaped for alignment and authenticity so that you can step into that next season, right? But embrace those seasons where you got to be shaped. Embrace those seasons where you have to be pulled and pushed in order to be moved internally so that you can step into what is for you externally. Embrace those seasons because they're serving a purpose and they are so incredibly vital. Those are really the seasons that develop your character, develop your resilience, develop your strength, develop you internally into the person that can step into the things that are for you. Those are really those seasons. So be grateful for them. Really be grateful for them. And really reframe it. I'm not stuck. I'm being shaped. I'm not lost. I'm just discovering. Come on. Come on. And this is huge, right? This is huge. Seek out role models who have faced major setbacks and later found success. Their journeys can inspire you to challenge, or can inspire you to see your challenge differently. That's a fact. I literally was just on the phone with a mentor yesterday, and I got so much clarity from that conversation, right? And it's so important to become aware of the season you're in, figure out what you need from you, and then also do your best to find people, trusted individuals in your life that you can go to and express certain things that you're dealing with, but also gain some, knowledge and wisdom from them about the things that they've been through, because that can help you tremendously. It's just like watching a podcast. Like for me, I was just watching the Mel Robbins podcast with Dr. K. I forgot his full name, but it was amazing. Like I haven't finished it, but it was so good, and it gave me so much more clarity about the season that I'm in. And, use the resources you have, people, media, entertainment, whatever it is, to really help you navigate these seasons, but be intentional. That's why intention is so important, right? Because social media isn't the bad thing. It's the way we use it, right? So be intentional with using it for your growth, not a hindrance of your growth, right? And number 3, this is beautiful. Like we touched on this a little bit earlier. It says, cultivate patience and trust in the process during those seasons. Really cultivate patience and trust during those tough seasons, during those seasons of feeling lost, confused, pushed and pulled. Cultivate patience and trust. Patience is not passive. It's a choice to trust and move intentionally. That is a fact. And here's the thing about patience, right? I've said this before, but I've heard people be like, well, man, I've been waiting for forever. What's going on? I just can't catch a break, whatever it is. You're showing me that that's not patience, bro. Just because you're waiting doesn't mean you're being patient. Just because you're waiting does not mean you're being patient. Patience is all about the attitude, perspective, and where your heart is during that time. Because if you're in a season where you feel like you have to really, really cultivate patience or wait for something and really just be where you are, but you're complaining, you're being negative, you're focusing on the lack, that's not patience. That's called impatience. That is called impatience. A lot of people confuse impatience with patience just because they've been waiting. But patience is not just waiting. It's waiting intentionally with the right perspective and the right attitude. So you have to really have that inner dialogue, that real conversation with yourself, and ask yourself, am I truly being patient during these seasons where I lack clarity? During these seasons where I have to really focus on being where my feet are and trust in the process? Am I truly being patient, right? And really be honest with yourself so that you can start to make the necessary shifts internally in order to step into that energy of patience. Trust that everything is unfolding as it should, even if the outcome isn't clear. Trust that everything is unfolding as it should, even if the outcome is not clear. It is okay if the outcome is not clear. It is okay. Because if it was clear and we knew how everything was going to go, we would not need faith. We would not need to trust. Right? So be grateful that it's not clear, because now you have an opportunity to really, really live in faith. You have an opportunity to really, really trust in the process, right? And one of the best ways that can help you to trust in the process is to focus on the step in the day that you have right in front of you. Do not get so caught up in looking for the clarity that it takes you out of the present moment and causes more confusion, right? More frustration. Just focus all your energy on being the best you can in this moment, taking the necessary intentional steps you can right here, right now, where your feet are, and everything else will take care of itself. I can guarantee you that. Everything else will take care of itself. And here's also the thing about seasons and understanding you're on your own unique journey. Some seasons last longer than others, and one of the worst things you can do is compare your timeline to other people's. A lot of people start to become resentful, start to become even more frustrated because they're looking at other people, and those people aren't in the season you're in, or they might have been in a season, but they've moved out of it and moved into something better, and now you feel like you're behind, or you feel like, oh, yours is taking long. Hey, every season is different, and you don't understand, you don't know what God is doing in their life, and you have to trust that what God is doing in your life is right for you. But don't compare your journey or the season you're in to somebody else, because then you'll get so caught up in your head. You'll start comparing. You'll start to become resentful. You'll start to create more issues. You'll start to think that, oh my gosh, what is going on? And you're just making so much more of a mountain than you have to. Just embrace your unique journey and understand that every season is serving a greater purpose, and every season has a different timeline depending on who you are in your journey. So just embrace your journey, right? Some seasons last longer than others. They do, right? In New York, where I'm at, winter definitely lasts longer than spring, summer, and fall. So I can't sit here in New York and compare myself to somebody in Florida. Compare our weather to somebody in Florida and be mad that right now they sitting in 60-degree weather with the sun out, and we sitting in 17-degree weather and the sun hasn't shown in 4 days. Then I'm going to start getting resentful. Nah, I just got to be where my feet are and embrace where I'm at. Embrace where I'm at, right? This is beautiful. It says, impatience often comes from a desire to control. Practice surrender by focusing on what you can do now. Like I said, people become impatient because they start to want to control every facet of their life. They want to control the timeline. They want to control how everything's going to work out rather than just surrendering control over the things that you have no control over and just focusing on what you do have control over, which is what you do in this moment, your attitude in this moment, your perspective in this moment, your actions in this moment. Just focus on that, right? And surrender control to everything else that you don't have control over. And I promise you, so much more peace will come into your life. We're going to do a whole episode on Mel Robbins, like let them theory. Cause I just listened to Mel Robbins and Jay Shetty. I finished that whole podcast yesterday and it was so good. It was so good. And that deserves a whole episode in itself, but really, really practice surrender by focusing on what you have control over. Because when you're putting all your energy towards the things that you have control over, organically and naturally, you're letting go of control, or you're letting go of focusing on controlling things that you have no control over, right? Because where your focus goes, energy follows. So if you're focusing on the things you do have control over, you're giving more energy to the things you do have control over, which means you're taking away energy and not giving energy to the things that you don't have control over, right? And that's a beautiful thing. This is so good. It says, redefine success as staying aligned with your values and actions rather than outcomes. This was also in the podcast I was just listening to, but let go of your attachment to outcomes and just focus on being aligned and taking aligned action, inspired action, intentional steps. Focus on that. The outcomes will take care of itself. The outcomes will take care of itself. And true success is doing your best every single day to live authentically, aligned, and as intentional as you can. If you are doing that on a day-to-day basis to the best of your ability, that is success. The journey is the reward, not the destination. The journey is the reward, not the destination. Focus every single day on being aligned and as intentional as you can with your actions, with your perspective, with your attitude, with what you say, with what you put in your body, with how you move, all that stuff. And if you really, really just focus one day at a time at doing that to the best of your ability, right? Not trying to get everything perfect, but really doing that to the best of your ability for that day, all the outcomes and results you want to see in your life will take care of themselves. I guarantee it. And there's going to come a point in time later in your journey where you look back and it's not going to be the results or the outcomes that really was the prize. It's going to be the journey. It's going to be the journey and the experiences and the different seasons you had to navigate, right? The journey is the reward, not the destination. Focus on the day-to-day intentional, aligned habits, values, perspectives, mindsets, and let go of your emotional attachment to the outcomes. Trust. Because your success is not dictated by outcomes, right? That's the society we live in. So it's very easy to fall into that, mindset that my success is dictated by outcomes. But it's not. It's not. But we live in a society where we define success as one thing, outcomes. Materialistic things, external validation, how much money you make, right? How many followers you have, how big is your house, the type of car you drive, how many trophies you have in your room. I'm like, yo, listen, that's cool when it comes to like sports and stuff like that. But real life, if you put your success on those things, you're going to live a very, very, very unfulfilled life. True success is in the journey. It's in the journey of becoming the best version of yourself every single day and making strides toward that to the best of your ability. Every single day. I love this. It says, make peace with uncertainty by reminding yourself, I trust the process because I trust myself. Whoo! And this goes back, we're going to do a whole episode on this too. Developing the relationship you have with yourself. You have to get to a point to where you truly trust yourself. Most people don't trust themselves. So of course they're not going to trust in the process. If I don't trust myself, I'm not trusting the process. But because I trust myself, because I've shown up for myself day in and day out, not being perfect, but I've continued to just get up even when I've messed up. I've made mistakes. I've failed, right? I've made tough, bad decisions, but I still show up. I'm showing myself that I got my own back. And that's how you develop trust with self. And that's how you can start to really trust in the process. I trust in the process because I trust myself. Truly. I know that everything is going to work out because I trust myself to really take it day by day and be intentional and as aligned as I can with that day and do the best I can for that day. I trust myself to do that. So I also trust the process and I trust that everything will work out, right? I trust that everything will work out. So remind yourself of that. Right? Use affirmations, right? Speak to yourself. Have real conversation with self, right? I trust myself. I trust the process because I trust myself. Straight up. When you're going through tough seasons, right? This is the next point. It's so important to find meaning and lessons in the struggle, in the pain, in the adversity, right? Really, really find meaning in those things. And here's the beautiful thing about meaning. You bring meaning to every moment. You bring meaning to every moment. Right? That's why some moments, right, two people can go through the same moment, but one person has such a positive and uplifting meaning tied to it, and another person has such a negative and low meaning tied to it, right? You bring meaning to the moments, not the other way around, right? So really define, the meaning when you're going through these tough seasons, right? When you're going through these tough seasons, right? And I always like to keep it simple. When I'm going through tough seasons, I'm lacking clarity, frustrated, whatever it may be, the meaning I bring to it is this is serving a greater purpose. And this is part of me becoming the best version of myself. So I just need to embrace it. That helps me to give meaning. And when something has meaning, it allows you to embrace it in a more aligned, uplifted way. Right? Rather than feeling like it's just happening to you. When you bring meaning to it, that's when you understand it's happening for you. Right? It's happening for you. It says pain and struggle often reveals truths we might have ignored. What is your current challenge revealing about your values, boundaries, and priorities? That is beautiful. Understand that struggle and pain often reveals things in our life that we were not aware of or that we've been ignoring for a long time. That is something to be grateful for because in order to grow and evolve, you have to become aware of the things that have been holding you back, tying you down, blocking your growth. And something that allows us to really become aware of those things is struggle, adversity, and pain. But most people have such a negative connotation with struggle, adversity, and pain. So we're not able to see how they're blessings and really shining light on things that we need to work on, but rather we look at them as hindrances and roadblocks and the worst thing possible. Right? And if you continue to have the lens of struggle through that is what you're going to get from the struggle. I promise you. But when you shift the meaning and perspective of struggle, pain, and adversity as, oh, no, this is an opportunity to learn something about myself. This is an opportunity for something to surface that I need to work on. Right? That is a beautiful thing. So much of, my healing and my growth individually has come from when I went through really, really tough times because it's allowed me to become aware and see things that I wasn't able to see when life was fine, when everything was going my way, when I was comfortable, right? That discomfort sometimes pushes what's on the inside out and gives you a new perspective on what's really going on. Like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize that was holding me back. I need to start working on that. And that wouldn't have came if you weren't going through the struggle or the tough season or the adversity or the setback. So we are grateful for those things, because it exposed something that we need to work on. And because we're trying to become the best version of ourselves, we need to figure out things that are holding us back and work on changing them so that we can grow. So anything that allows us to become aware and see what's actually holding us back so that we can shift it. We're grateful for because we have the right perspective, because we tie the right meaning to struggle, adversity, and pain, because we're looking through the right lens. Come on. Use journaling during this time. This is huge. Use journaling during this time, right? Write things like, what lesson is hidden in this struggle? How can I grow through this pain instead of being consumed by it, right? Really write that down and answer it, and take your time with that. But that can help you tremendously because, like I said already right there, you're reframing it and focusing on the opportunity rather than how bad the situation is, right? So these things that we talk about, it's all about shifting your perspective and reframing the things that we go through so that we can grow through them, right? So that we can heal and change through them and shift and evolve, right? So really use that journaling prompt, what lesson is hidden in this struggle? How can I grow through this pain instead of being consumed by it? Write that down, put a question mark, and answer it honestly. Something will come out of that. I promise you something will come out of that. This is so good. Find meaning in the struggle. Let me tell you something. One of the best ways to find meaning, or best perspectives in order to find meaning through struggle, is your current struggle is preparing you to support others in the future. Come on. I know that me going through these seasons, or this season of feeling lost, of lacking clarity, of feeling pressured in a lot of areas, is actually helping me to develop more empathy for other people. It's helping me to one day be able to relate to people who are going through that in their life. That's a beautiful thing, because I want to live a life of service. I want to live a life where, I'm doing things out of the love and service of others, really trying to, help the people around me and help society in the best possible way. The best way to help people is to have went through things in your life, come out the other side, and then reach your hand down to people who are going through similar things and help pull them up. That is a beautiful, beautiful thing. So understand that this struggle that you're going through is going to help somebody else in the future too. Not only is it going to develop you and help you grow, but it's also going to give you certain things internally that will be able to help other people in the future. That is a beautiful thing. Put that meaning on the struggle. Put that meaning on the tough season, right? This tough season I am facing is giving me something that maybe I can't see right now, but one day I will, that will also be able to help me to help other people. That is a beautiful, beautiful thing. Your current struggle is preparing you to help others in the future. Come on. It says seek spiritual perspective. This is everything, right? As you guys know, we've cultivated a really, really diverse community here, and I love that, right? We have people who are Muslim. We have people who are Christian. We have people who are Hindu. We have people who are just spiritual, right? Seek spiritual perspectives. Whatever you gravitate towards, or if you're just spiritual and you're open to everything, kind of like how I am, really, really dive into spirituality during those times where you're feeling lost, you're lacking clarity on certain things. Like when I tell you, really seeking out spiritual perspectives can help you just to not feel so alone during those times and understand that there's a greater play at work. There's a higher power at work. And that is a beautiful thing to know, that I'm going through this tough season, but I'm not alone. I'm being guided. I'm not alone. I'm being guided, right? And that's why having a spiritual foundation, having some type of faith in your life is so important, especially through those seasons that are harder to navigate and more difficult than others. Because a lot of people, right, the reason that they get so consumed by the season and by the struggle and by the adversity is because they think they are in it alone. They don't realize that they have the whole entire universe guiding them through that. They don't realize that they have the whole hand of God looking over them as they have to navigate that tough season. And it is serving a greater purpose. You are not alone, right? So seek spiritual perspectives, right? That's a beautiful thing. And the last way to, navigate, or last point, to really navigate tough seasons and tough times is stay aligned by taking small, grounded steps every single day, right? We've touched on this pretty much all podcasts, but this deserves its own segment in itself, because when I tell you the amount of peace that will come into your life when you really, really focus, not on the whole entire mountain, but just one step at a time, one grain of salt at a time, everything will change about how you navigate and go through tough seasons and tough moments in your life. I promise you. You do not need to know the entire path. You just need to take the next step. Come on. We do not need to know how we're going to climb the entire mountain. We do not need to know the entire path. We just need to take the next step. Trust the next step. Don't get consumed by the whole mountain. Trust the next step. That is where our energy and focus is going. This is a beautiful, beautiful quote. It says, small steps in the right direction can turn out to be the biggest step of your life. The biggest step you need to take in your life is focusing on one step at a time. One step at a time. And if you keep doing that, it's going to turn out to be the best thing that you ever did, or one of the best things you ever did. One of the biggest steps you ever took was focusing your energy on the one step in front of you. That's everything. That's everything. Break down overwhelming problems into manageable steps. Even tiny progress creates momentum. Come on. Tiny progress creates momentum. Don't ever look past the small incremental steps, because those are really the things that create the most momentum in your life. Just focus on doing one at a time, one step at a time, one moment at a time, and everything is going to work itself out. I promise you. Ask yourself daily, what one thing can I do today that aligns with where I'm trying to go? One thing. Not what 15 things can I do today? How can I fix everything right now? No, what one thing can you do today that aligns with where you're trying to go? One thing. I don't need you to focus on everything. I need you to focus on one thing, one step. And you take that. And if you have the energy and inspiration for that day to take another step, do it. But if all you could take was one step, that is a success. Don't look past the one small step, right? And that's why you can't compare yourself to other people, because where other people may be in their journey, it may look like they're taking 15, 20 steps in a day. And now that's going to make you feel horrible for just taking one step. But no, you're not them, they're not you. You're on your own unique journey. So if all you got today is one step, you take that one step. And guess what? You succeeded for that day. You succeeded for that day, especially through tough, difficult seasons, right? Where it's harder to take steps. That's where you really have to hone in on just taking one step at a time. Today, what is one step that I can take that aligns with where I'm trying to go? Especially through tough seasons. It says movement is key. Physical activity can shift mental stagnation and boost clarity. That is a fact. That is a fact. Something I am honing in on is making sure I'm getting in the gym and running. Making sure I'm lifting and getting my running in. Because the way I feel after physical activity is insanely more profound positively than I would if I didn't do it. Like I've experienced, going through this season, these tough seasons, and maybe you go a few days without working out, and the lag and the way you feel so sluggish and you don't feel any clarity at all mentally. It's so real. So for all y'all, right? Because we're not just focused on, the spiritual or the emotional health. We're also focused on the mental and physical health. And physical health plays a huge role in your mental and emotional health. So don't overlook, what going for a walk can do. Don't overlook what going for a run can do or going to the gym can do when you're going through really, really tough seasons trying to navigate things of the external world. Really prioritize things like physical activity that can help you to, really, really gain clarity and feel some type of relief during that time. You know what I mean? It really helps to get the pressure off, right? So really prioritize that. And another thing is really focus on eating healthy to the best of your ability. And I'm not one of those dudes that says one diet is better than the other. Figure out the diet that's for you. The biggest thing you need to focus on is just eating whole foods, cutting out processed foods, cutting out processed sugars, just that type of stuff. Like the littlest of shifts can help you tremendously. I'm telling you, when you really start being intentional with what you eat, you start being intentional with getting some type of physical activity in throughout the week, you will feel a profound difference internally, mentally, and emotionally. I promise you will. Right? So really take these tough seasons, these difficult seasons, to really prioritize the things that really, really help your mental and emotional well-being. Don't allow those things to just wither away because the season is so tough. No, let's double down on those, right? Let's double down on those, and we're going to do that together. Let's double down on those, and we're going to do that together. And surround yourself with positivity during that time, right? It could be quotes, visuals, community, people, right, that are really focused on growth and development, man. It's important. It's important when you're going through really difficult seasons to be around the right influences, right? And if sometimes a difficult season means isolation, right? Make sure that you're consuming positive things even if you're isolated and in solitude, right? Really, really focus on that. If you don't really have many people around and you're going through a tough season, you just feel like you need time for you in solitude, just focus on really cultivating positive influences during that time. What are you watching? What are you looking at? What are you consuming on a day-to-day basis, right? But really, really be intentional with, honing in on positivity during that time, because those times can be really difficult. Those seasons, lacking clarity, feeling lost, dealing with a heartbreak, feeling like you just hit a wall, going through a setback, going through some type of adversity, they can be really, really difficult to navigate. And something that can make it so much worse is being consumed by negativity, whether it's people or things around you, right? So be intentional with how you're moving through those seasons and focusing your energy on things that are uplifting and helping you to stay aligned so that you can gracefully move through that season and come out a better version of yourself. It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. But that is going to do it for this week's episode of With a Grain of Salt. Like I always say, I appreciate y'all. I love y'all. And that episode just helped me tremendously just to feel a sense of peace, because I'm telling you, I'm going through a difficult season right now. I'm going through that winter season right now, right? We're not mad about it. We're blessed. We're grateful for it, because these seasons are necessary in order to step into what is for us. And I'm really excited to see what's on the opposite end of this season, what's going to come from this season, right? But in order to get to, that next season, or to get to see what comes from this, you have to embrace where you are. So that's what we're going to do. That's what we're going to do. We're going to embrace these tough seasons with the right perspective, with the right attitude, and most importantly, with a grain of salt. I love y'all. I appreciate y'all. I will catch you guys in the next episode. Deuces.